reason why consistently, even though the law says notify the police for 5 days prior, we notify them 3 months prior. Because we're expecting consistent engagement. We're expecting that they disagree. I mean, as far as democracy in the country is concerned, the attitude is that no matter what happens, we're not going to allow them to protest.
I mean, but you know, you sound a little bit as though the police do not want you to protest. Absolutely
think so. I'm saying that, remember the last protest we had was last year, Occupy Jolobi. We did that defying another court order. Do you understand?
Consistently, why will the police not want you to protest?
For the first Face the Country protest, they obtained an ex parte injunction. On that occasion, even the Attorney General said we should defy it because it was unconstitutional. We said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to challenge it all the way to the Supreme Court. And that's what we did. We're supposed to do that on May 9th, 2021. We ended up protesting in August after Macho Kaka and others had been killed in Nigeria. So the disposition of the regime, for whatever thing, is that when young people gather to be, they are not seen as participants in our democracy. They are not seen as persons who are bearers of policy concerns that our democracy ought to be able to take up and solve. Is that these people, they are a threat to our regime and our sustenance.
And the police, you know, statement indicated that some of these young people were engaged in untoward behavior.
I mean, in fact, think about it. When we first tried to do a protest, ministers were in parliament saying that we had been hijacked by terrorists, that we are operating with a coup d'etat mentality. It has never left us. I'm standing trial on the same charges. But consistently, we have emphasized the point that the right and the freedom of protest belongs to every Ghanaian, young or old, and particularly young people. We are a young democracy. In fact, young people make up the majority of our electoral population and even of our society.
I want to look at some of the charges that you are facing.
Okay.
Conspiracy to commit unlawful assembly, causing unlawful damage, offensive conduct conducive to the breach of peace, assault on a public officer, defacement of public notice, and stealing. Let's talk about the last one.
Okay.
Why did you take the key from the police ignition?
Oh, is that
the vehicle?
Is that what the stealing charge is on? Because I haven't quite reached there yet. But I have been very clear. You see, one of the things which whenever we set out to do anything, we are doing so to be able to show Ghanaians the full scope of their constitutional and rights in this country. One of the most important things our courts have held, as far back as 1974, when the police unlawfully tries to arrest you, you can beat up the police officer. In fact, somebody did, Asante did. And the court said, yes, that's what you're supposed to do. Nobody is entitled to restrict you or take away your rights illegally. And this is another moment of that, where the police try to seize property, private property, illegally. And anybody who tries to seize private property illegally is entitled to be resisted. This is that resistance that we're showing them. In that moment, we had brought a truck which contained medicine, food, and water, and placards for protesters. It had been parked under the trees that was at near the Trotro station. Not even on the road. It had been stopped there, the driver was out, things like that. Then we saw police officers forming a wall around the vehicle. My understanding, initially, I had assumed that they were trying to prevent the vehicle from moving onto the streets. So I just came and told the driver there was a laptop which was exposed. Take the laptop, raise the windows and close it and go. So that, I mean, it is clear to them that this vehicle wasn't going anywhere. So we're standing there when we saw them bring a tow truck and immediately proceeded to tow the truck. Our initial instinct in that moment was to prevent it. So we stood in front of it as individuals, in a way in which an environmental protester might chain themselves to a tree in the hope that the tree is saved. So we were, putting our bodies on the line to protect it. Obviously, it meant nothing to them. And we started seeing the tow truck get under our legs. And the video supports this. And so even one of the guys fell on the tow truck.
I see.
And I left, so I walked from it. So I started walking around the tow truck to see, is there a way in which you can demobilize this truck in fear that it might injure the individuals who were there. So I went around it. I couldn't see how. Then I got to where the driver was supposed to be. There was no driver in. Immediately, I am even thinking, but this is so security incompetent to be able to leave a vehicle running in this scenario. So my first instinct is that I turn it off so that it stops. Now, when I did, I had the key, and I anticipated that they were going to rush me for the key. And so I ran towards the other side where the other police officers were and threw the key to them. Because my interest in that moment...
You threw it to the police officers.
The key was thrown to the police officers on the other side. In fact, they retrieved it in less than 5 minutes.
I see, but it was quite a run before you did that.
Well, I ran from where the incident was to where the other police officers were.
Yeah, and during this period, it would appear that one of the commanders kept insisting that arrest him, and nobody... Yeah. Why do you think that none of the officers, moved on to arrest you?
It's difficult for me to speculate. My hope is that most of them recognize the unlawfulness of the order in that moment. I don't know. That's my guess. But for several reasons, none of them wanted to move in that moment.
I see.
Then subsequently,
then there was the statement that they couldn't find you.
That apparently there was a manhunt for me.
We'll talk about that manhunt. Yes. But reflecting on the incident, do you think it was a reckless thing you did?
I think that it is reckless to deny citizens of their rights. I would do it today, and I would do it ever consistently. And in fact, I'll invite every citizen whose rights have been oppressed, whether you are subject to unlawful arrest or unlawful seizure of property, that you are constitutionally entitled to resist it. Don't look at the fact that the individuals who are involved in that are police officers. In fact, our anthem mandates us that those who are more likely to oppress us is those who must resist. So for me, it makes no difference as to who is entitled to violate rights and who is supposed to be able to protect themselves. Protect yourself always, and I'll do that today.
I mean, were you not worried about the consequences that could have...
I mean, I am standing there in a public protest, which is a constitutional protest, where the presidents have made clear that they were going to arrest us. And in fact, because of what happened last year, we know that when they arrest us, we're going to be subject to inhumane treatment. But we came out nonetheless. Because the bigger message, the health of our democracy is much more important to me in that moment. And we'll continue.